Welcome to the Rediscover You in Midlife Pod Summit, hosted by The Roller Coaster. My name is Lucy Q. 5 years ago, the emotional turmoil of midlife turned my life into a shitstorm. To make things worse, I had no idea that my chaotic emotions were due to the roller coaster of midlife. I thought I was crazy, and I felt completely alone. I've come to realize that midlife is more than a list of symptoms that we have to endure or cure. Midlife is the beginning of our next chapters. This is our time to be heard, to live our best lives, and to fix those pesky hormones. Join me as I chat with experts and industry leaders about nutrition, bone health, hormones, mindset, healing, journaling, living life to the fullest, and yes, even sex. I'm inviting you to throw your head back, arms in the air, and come along with me for the ride. I was finally able to start my journaling practice back in 2018, but that was only after several failed attempts. Before I was really able to connect with journaling, I had purchased countless blank journals with high hopes of pouring myself onto their pages. Instead of spilling my words of wisdom and insight, I'd find myself sitting there just staring at blank pages, painfully trying to find something to write. That is why I created Your Journaling Journey, a quick start guide to begin your journaling practice today. Your Journaling Journey is a guided journal with daily prompts, gratitude, and affirmations. You can get your copy of Your Journaling Journey today on Amazon or check out the show notes for links. Welcome back to the Rediscover You in Midlife. I'm your host, Lucy Q, and joining me is Esther Blum. Esther is an integrative dietitian and menopause expert. And over the past 27 years, she has helped thousands of women master menopause through nutrition, hormones, and self-advocacy. Esther has authored 5 best-selling books, including her latest, See You Later, Ovulator. Esther has also appeared on Dr. Oz, The Today Show, and Fox News Live. Welcome, Esther.
Thanks, Lucy. I'm stoked to be here.
Now, I think I can speak for women, or they can relate to what I'm about to say. But I am tired of being tired. My joints ache. My waistline is expanding, and it doesn't make a difference how much I exercise or watch what I eat. And when I asked my doctor for help, he was basically like a deer staring into headlights because he had no clue what test to even run. And I just feel like I'm chasing my tail, and I'm just getting more and more exhausted.
I'm
What
so
the
sorry to
heck
hear
is
that.
going on?
Yeah. And are your cycles regular now, or are they shifting?
No, I went through last year. I went about 10 months without anything, and then it came back for a few months, and then I think I'm close to another 8 or 9 months.
Yeah. Okay. So you're definitely in the throes of perimenopause. And so what's happening when you go through perimenopause is you are winding down the party. Your body's saying, not really time to ovulate and make babies right now. So your ovarian reserves and production of estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, potentially DHEA, which is another beneficial hormones, more produced by your adrenals, but all of those are winding down. And what's happening is, as a result, your insulin sensitivity decreases, which can give you that muffin top or menopause, as I call it. Progesterone declining, progesterone acts like a natural steroid. So in its absence, you can feel really achy. Your sleep can be disrupted, hot flashes, brain fog, irritability. All of those can really be a consequence of declining hormones without replenishing them. So there are tests that you can run. Now, doctors aren't going to, unless they are functional medicine, MDs, GYNs, or naturopathic physicians, they don't, and even then, they don't always run the tests that I do in practice because there is no training for menopause in
That's
medical school. Can you
that's
believe that?
that's frightening because
Mm-hmm.
I have 2 kids. Well, they're adults now. But I remember it's like the minute you're pregnant, it's like you're in with a doctor and you're doing this and they're monitoring you every month, every this, every that. You are so well taken care of. Not to mention the wealth of information. I mean, it was sort of pre-internet days for me when I had
Yeah.
my kids, but the wealth of information that was available
Yeah.
was incredible. You didn't feel lost and confused. Yet you get to the other end of things and it's
Right.
crickets. It's like
Crickets.
it's so
Crickets.
frustrating.
Yeah, you're given a pat on the shoulder and are like, well, that's just menopause.
And you're just
Or
like you just want to
yeah,
look at
and you're
them and
like,
say,
what the
"Fuck
fuck is
you."
this? Yeah, fuck you. What the hell is this? And it's almost it's as bad for female physicians as male physicians. You know, in my book, See You Later, Ovulator, I remember when I included one story from a client who went to her female GYN who was also going through perimenopause or menopause. And she said, well, I personally take Benadryl shots every night, but for you, you know, we can either put you on the pill or give you an IUD. And
That's
then it's so crazy.
like
It's so
that's
egregious. And menopause is not a birth control deficiency. Okay. So, what happens is now, if you need to use birth control because you don't want to get pregnant again, no problem there. But understand that birth control is designed to suppress ovulation and suppress progesterone. And in menopause, your progesterone is already declining, which contributes to anxiety, depression, insomnia, achy joints. So to be on birth control, which is further suppressing it, women have told me, countless women have said, I felt like I was losing my mind. I felt like I was going crazy.
I did.
And right?
I did.
How
I bottomed out.
unjust. You bottomed out. And
I bottomed out.
did your doctor want to put you on antidepressants after
I
that?
didn't well, in Canada here, good luck having a doctor. I haven't had a
Mm,
doctor in years. I have when I refer to
mhm,
my doctor, it's a nurse practitioner.
mhm,
But at the time, no, I
mhm,
didn't have a doctor. And on what I call my worst day,
mhm,
because of all the emotional turmoil that goes along with it, I considered tapping out. I was just done. I
mm,
was 44 and I
mhm,
was done.
mm, mm. Which is heartbreaking because that's another thing that is not just for women are the mental health changes that go along with menopause. You're not crazy, you're not losing your mind. You are declining in hormone levels. So what are the tests that we can do? Now, for those of you who are listening or in Canada, I do not treat people across the border. I can't get the same testing done with all my tests, but there are practitioners. There is a great practitioner in Canada I want to give a shout out to. His name is Sachin Patel, Patel. He has the Living Proof Institute. I do send a lot of people his way. So, tests you can do comprehensive blood panel, and I put these in my book, See You Later, Ovulator, of all the blood tests that you can get, including comprehensive thyroid, inflammatory markers, glucose, insulin, A1C. Really want to get a picture of your metabolic health. And then there's the Dutch test and the GI map. The Dutch test is a dried urine test for comprehensive hormones. Okay. This is going to look at where you are hormonally, what you are producing, either in your ovaries or your adrenals, which your adrenals kind of take over hormone production once menopause has kicked in. So, either way, we know your baseline hormones. We learn how those hormones move through your liver and get detoxified. And I do a Dutch complete. So, I look at the organic acids in your brain to see, what your brain chemistry is like, your dopamine, your serotonin, your melatonin production, if you're deficient in B vitamins. And I also look at your cortisol curve to also figure out, hey, why aren't you sleeping? Why are you gaining weight? What's happening there? The other test I do is the GI map. It's a stool test. It looks at your microbiome. It looks at your levels of probiotics, if you have any dysbiosis, if you're absorbing your nutrients, or you have a leaky gut. It looks at how you detox estrogen in the gut. So you detox estrogen in your liver and your gut. You have to poop every day. You got to clean house. If you don't do this, people are always afraid of hormones because of the links of cancer, which were tied to a study, the Women's Health Initiative, which was really the results were not The structure of the test was very poorly designed, and the results themselves were misinterpreted. That all has been updated since then to say hormones, on the whole, women really benefit from bringing them in as close to menopause as possible. I'm a strong advocate for getting women to bring them in during perimenopause to smooth out the bumps. But if you don't have strong detox pathways, that is potentially a risk for developing a hormone related cancer. That's why I run these tests I do, because most doctors will say that's a waste of money. You don't need to do all these testing. I'm like, don't you want to know how your body, the system of checks and balances your body has in place to handle the hormones that you are potentially going to bring in? Assuming if your pathways are poor, there's absolutely ways to support estrogen and hormone detox. There's dietary fiber. They're from chia and flax seeds in particular. There's cruciferous vegetables in the brassica family, broccoli, cauliflower. There's radishes, there's artichokes, there's kale, there's Brussels sprouts. And then also, a good B complex can really be beneficial. There's cruciferous concentrates you can take. So you want to make sure that your hormones are being detoxed well. And assuming you are a good detoxer, then you're a great candidate to bring in bioidentical hormones in very low doses. These doses are like a fifth of the birth control pill. But the research in my book shows that doing those, having hormones in the picture, can not only improve your quality of life, bump up your libido, correct vaginal dryness, restore your cognitive function, but they also offset bone loss and osteoporosis, risk of heart disease, and risk of Alzheimer's. So that's why I'm a big advocate of bringing hormones in. I have no financial ties. I do not make any money from recommending these. Even, there's very few studies done on compounded bioidentical hormones because there's no money in them, but there's plenty of money in birth control pills and IUDs. So you do have to be your own advocate.
And that's the hardest thing, is that I've been trying to do some of the research for myself, and by the sounds of it, I'm just gonna go out and buy your book because it sounds like it checks a lot of the boxes for things that I've been searching for, and the answers that I get are just lead to more confusion. And one of them was when I was looking up about compounded hormones. They were saying, they were really writing them off because there's not been enough studies done on it. But even the whole panel of tests that you run for your clients, I can't say that I have ever had a medical practitioner run that in depth of a look at how my body is working, that it just leaves me with so many questions, because I know that the lack of certain hormones for women is the reason why so many women are suffering from depression. It is a pandemic on its own. Add to that the lack of progesterone is also one of the reasons why I think most of the Alzheimer's cases are women, because of our lack of hormones. So if you just look at those two markers, depression and Alzheimer's, that they're not caring for us, so that it's almost like you're passing those healthcare issues further down the line. It's just like, if you just take care of things in the beginning,
Yeah.
you're going to be solving that problem down the line.
Amen, sister. That's exactly what I'm preaching, and seeing the difference in practice. I mean, women come to me in droves, not sleeping, weight gain, vaginal dryness, the whole litany of symptoms and I always say the first thing we're going to do is fix your sleep, right? I can usually get a woman sleeping in 1 to 2 weeks after years of not sleeping, because we introduce progesterone, and bioidentical progesterone is particularly important here, listeners and Lucy. Why? Because synthetic progestin does not impact your brain biochemistry at all. It doesn't have the effect that bioidentical progesterone does. So, bioidentical progesterone mimics the effect of your own production of progesterone. It's plant based. And so, what it does is it hits up the calming neurotransmitters in the brain and it's a precursor to GABA, which is a very calming neurotransmitter that helps you fall asleep. So imagine all of a sudden you go from being ragey, having, super heavy periods, blood clots, or just feeling absolutely irritable and wanting to kill your family all the time, to going on progesterone. And if you're still cycling, you can even just do it the second half of your cycle. And if you're no longer cycling, you can do it, every night before bed. Imagine how different your life is when you're not sleeping and when you're sleeping. And it's really hard to lose weight and have blood sugar balance and insulin sensitivity and lose fat when you're not sleeping. So when we get people sleeping, it's a huge game changer. That's immediately what starts to shift a woman's
And,
outcomes.
and I'm going to say there's a difference in sleep. I can be asleep for 7 hours and still wake up tired. But it seems like a distant memory, the nights where I would go to bed. I was always like an early bedtime type of person. I'd go to bed at 9 and I'd wake up at 6 and I'd feel like I was on top of the world. That hasn't happened in 10 years. And it's a, and I am on a low dose of BHRT. I started about 6 weeks ago. But it's like anything, it takes time. And I'm guessing that it may not be working as it should because of all those other things that you were talking about, all those other tests and markers,
Right.
that it's almost, plugging a hole in a dam with a piece of bubble gum.
Yes, correct. And I'm glad you brought that up, right? So you have to also look at your lifestyle factors, right? I take, about 150 milligrams of progesterone at night before bed. I can tell you on the nights when I'm on my phone before bed, my sleep stinks. And so does my anxiety. It ratchets up compared to the nights when I lie in bed with my dog. I read a library book, not on a screen. And then I just gently, like, my mind shuts down. I drift off, and I do meditate every night. But, the lifestyle piece, the blue light, the anxiety, working too late, not clearing your head, or journaling is really helpful too. Getting plenty of protein during the day and some carbs at dinner. Also, these are what I call my Meno laws for fat loss. Is optimize your protein during the day. That means about 4 to 6 ounces of animal protein at each meal, to stabilize your blood sugar and support your adrenals and your thyroid. And B, getting a good amount of carbs at dinner, like a cup to a cup and a half of complex carbs, sweet potato, winter squash, legumes if you tolerate them, butternut squash. You can even do white potatoes. Getting a good amount of carbs in at night bumps up your insulin, and that tamps down your cortisol. So you're not waking up at 3 a.m. like, oh my God, the running lists in our head, the
Oh,
ruminating
yeah.
thoughts, right? I've been there, done that. Still I'm doing. I can tell the nights I don't sleep as well if I don't get enough carbs at dinner. So doing that, and then also making sure that your ratio of protein to carbs is higher. So I do recommend you spend 3 days on a tracking app. More as long as you like, but a baseline of 3 days to understand how many grams of protein I'm eating. Let's say you're eating 120 grams of protein a day, then your carbs should be around 100. Just your protein intake has to outweigh your carb intake, because that will also sensitize you to insulin and promote fat loss. This is not based on any research study other than the thousands of women that I've seen and treated in practice. And I'm telling you, it's formulaic. I mean, yes, there's research on the protein optimization, the carbs at night, but the protein to carb ratio, that's my own formulation that I've seen just in clinical practice. So I just want to share it with everyone to say, guys, this really works. And it's a huge difference. And then, of course, exercise is also another piece of the pie with your quality of life, building muscle mass, which we lose muscle in menopause if we don't strength train. So, and people are so worried. They're like, oh, I don't want to bulk up, right? ladies, we don't have the testosterone to bulk up. Okay. You're not Michael Phelps and you're not Arnold Schwarzenegger. You don't have the calorie intake, or, most women I see in practice, they come in eating 11 to 1200 calories a day, which is nowhere near enough and certainly not going to jack you up. So lifting weights helps resensitize you to insulin. It works better than metformin. I repeat, weightlifting works better than metformin. There's research
What's
studies on this.
metformin?
Metformin is a drug for type 2 diabetes.
Oh, okay.
But
Okay.
a lot of biohackers will use it. There's really interesting studies coming out on the benefits of metformin. It's not without side effects. Spoiler alert: diarrhea is a big side effect for
Lovely.
metformin. Yeah. So, weightlifting is one of the greatest things you can do for your metabolism, your fat loss, building muscle. Long, slow walks are also great. This is not maybe the time to want to run a marathon or do, prolonged high levels, prolonged high intensity cardio that can actually blow out your exhaustion and cause insomnia at night.
When you say weight training, and I think that might be, where women can get scared off because
Mhm.
yeah, I used to go to the gym a lot when my kids were younger. You can bring them to the play center and you could work
Yes.
out for a couple of hours. But at 49, where do you even begin to start getting back into weight training? Because I mean, you see people in the gym and they're, pressing, I don't know how much, and they're doing
Right.
pulls and they're doing all of their shit. And it's like I'm sitting there with my 5-pound weights, and it's like, is that even enough? Is that like a place to start? How do you go about
Yeah.
getting that into your routine?
So if you are not, if you are going to a gym, or if you are at home, you start with 5, 8, 10 pound weights, right? And you can do, there's YouTube videos. If you have a Peloton, you can use the Peloton app, or you can work with a strength trainer to customize. But if you're doing this on your own, you want to make sure that you're not doing 3 sets easily. If you're doing 3 sets of 12 reps each, and it's just like, okay, I'm just counting out my reps and my muscles feel, I can tell they're working, but like I could do 20 more. Your weights are too light. You're stronger than you think. And we all have muscle memory. So even if you were buff and fit in your earlier years and now you're not as trained in terms of your strength, you will have muscle memory, and you'll see after a month. I mean, I just noticed, with COVID, I really did no strength training. I was so exhausted. For about a month, 4 or 5 weeks, I was walking, but I was barely doing strength training. I was just doing yoga and walking. That was all I could do. And then, within a week or two of returning to weights, my body was like, okay, I'm not fully back up to my 20 to 25 pound weights. I'm more in the 15 to 20 pound, but you do have muscle memory. So my point is, if you start, let's say you're doing 3 sets of weights and you start out a warm up set of, 8 to 10 pounds, then the second set could be 12 pounds and the third set could be 15 pounds. And you incrementally increase as with each workout, even if it's just for 1 set, you just slowly stair step it up. What I really did successfully in my early training days was I just kept a notebook with me so I would remember, like, how much weights did I would write sets for myself, and then I would write the volume of weights I was lifting for each set. So I wouldn't cheat when I came back, because you can't, if you just keep going back down to the 5 and 8s after you've been lifting 15, your body,
You're
it's
not
not
doing any
workout. You're
good.
not
Yeah.
doing anything. So the key is mentally to push ourselves, because a lot of us are stronger than we think we are. And lifting weights actually makes you smaller, not bigger. It makes you more compact. Your clothes will fit a lot better.
And what would be the goal? Like how many times a week and for how long should we to start look at
Yeah.
adding weights in?
Yeah, 2 times a week is great. 3 times a week can also be wonderful, but there's research that shows for menopausal mamas, like twice a week with weights is sufficient, and the rest is walking, stretching, yoga. If you want to take a 20-minute Peloton, fine. Just don't, don't do the prolonged high intensity. Hiking in the woods, you could do some sprints or some jump ropes to music, take a dance class. But yeah, you don't have to kill yourself postmenopausally, which is great, especially if your weights are heavy enough. I mean, goodness, you'll need the days in between to recover. Takes me a good 3 days to recover from a really hard strength workout.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
good to know. Because,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that can be, a lot of the times we're like, okay, if I'm going to get into a routine and I'm going to start doing all of these, checking all of these boxes and get healthy, and you immediately want to go to lifting weights 3 or 4 times a week. You want to go to, really hard cardio workouts. And then,
Yeah.
it lasts like a couple of weeks because you've hurt yourself or you've burned yourself
Right.
out.
That's the other thing you want to keep in mind is injury prevention. You really do want to be careful there as well. So that's why it's like go slow, go gentle. If something hurts you, your form may not be right, or you may not have the strength. You may need to switch your position. So yes, you have to be careful for sure. That's why it does help to like work with someone privately if you can, ideally, at least to get your form right, and help you understand how to lift and stay injury free. And, my goal is to be lifting in my 80s and 90s. So I want to be gentle and very mindful of form and not injuring myself along the way. Because it's interesting, a lot of the strength coaches I know, that I've known for years, I mean, they're all like, in so much chronic pain now because they were really ridiculously buff and cut, but they overdid it and they're in chronic pain now. And they're like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't have worked so hard, so longevity is the game here.
Yeah, because I'm sure you can hurt even, if your joints are already hurting, you can make them worse by doing too
Yes.
much repetitive motion.
Yes, that's right. Or just, again, incorrect form can have a big impact on, injury. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Lord knows I've buggered my back enough times to,
Yeah. Oh,
to know something like that. Now,
yes,
Esther, you also have a wonderful gift for our listeners today.
I
Can you
do.
maybe share a little bit about that?
Yes, if everyone goes to estherblum.com/menopause, you will receive a copy of my Happy Hormone Cocktail. You will have the opportunity to purchase my book, and you will get a free VIP ticket to my live virtual event in February of 2023. So you go to estherblum.com/menopause.
And you can also get that link and more information about Esther when you go to our private online community. And you can find that at nectargrowth.com. That's necturewth.com. And it is a private online community, but by being a part of this Pod Summit, you will receive the first 30 days free. But I know you're going to want to hang around because we have a lot of fun and it's packed full of resources. It's also where we're going to be hosting our monthly fireside chats. And that's where you get to connect with women just like you and share in authentic conversations. And when we need to, ladies, we are going to vent. So make sure you join us at nectargrowth.com. You can also find the links in our show notes and in your daily Pod Summit emails. Thank you so much for joining us. And Esther, thank you so much for joining and sharing your expertise today.
Thanks, Lucy, for having me. It's great to be here.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Roller Coaster Podcast. Want to chat or share your ideas about today's show? Pop me an email at hello@therollercoasterpodcast.com. Don't forget to connect with me on Facebook and Instagram at The Roller Coaster Podcast. Our theme song, Roller Coaster, was performed by The Lucky Setback. Audio editing by the one and only Jeff Quigley of Quigley Creator.
Life is like a roller coaster, baby, baby. I wanna ride, 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 ride. Life is like